background, and you will
Right.
be a trailblazer in our community because most people
Yeah.
just aren't ballsy enough to do what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, but I'm
Right.
still really unsure. And then the next thing you know, there I am working as America's first corporate concierge. And it's something I developed, and I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. It's 1994. And there I was on the trading floors of some of the biggest, most prominent investment banking firms in the world. And I could walk onto a trading floor with 250 homophobic men who just hate gay people. But I'd walk out there
Yeah.
and somebody would go, "Who makes your suit?" I'm like, "It's Ted Baker. I want one of those. That's really
Yeah.
cool." Where are you?
Yeah.
And oh, hey, Andy, I read recently you wrote a cookbook, right? I'm like, yeah. I said, so what's your favorite restaurant? Oh, for sure, like Raoul's is across the street from my penthouse in Soho. Okay, Raoul's. I'll write that down. Do you know anybody there? Yeah, ask for Eddie. Okay, and use my name, and you can get. Oh my God, you
Yeah.
rock. Okay. Hey, I
Yeah.
kind of messed up. It's my wedding anniversary on next Saturday. I'm like, okay, Joe, say no more. Where do you live? Okay,
Right.
boom. All right. I'm going
Yeah.
to arrange
Right.
for a
Right.
car. What kind of flowers does your wife like? Oh, you have no idea? All right, I'll figure that out. There'll be a car waiting for your wife at 6 o'clock next Saturday night, whatever, with flowers, and you're going to surprise her with reservations at XYZ, and you're going to go to a show. And he's like, you're a genius. So, bottom line is that how did I figure out a way to infiltrate my gay world into a highly homophobic environment? And I did it very successfully because I wasn't threatening, you know? And actually, what ended up happening is they're like, there's Andy, like, and that was the irony, as you know, with Fire is like, yeah, I was going to suck the biggest dick in the Bahamas to clear, 200,000 plastic water bottles, which, as you know, my company's based on sustainability, and I don't allow plastic at any of my events. But even still, it was that connotation when Billy called me and said, "You're our big gay leader. Will you go give a blowjob to the head of customs?" And I'm like, you know what? Sure. I'll
Whatever it
whatever it
takes.
takes. I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and bitch about it. It wasn't like he said go find 9 vaginas and sleep with them. He just said go find one dick,
Right.
suck it, and you'll save the festival. I'm like, all right, I don't need to tell anybody. Of course, Ellen DeGeneres is like, well, you managed to tell 70 million people across the world through Netflix. But I'm like, oops, I guess you're right. But at the end of the day, I can look in the mirror, and people can look at me and go, wow, I have power. And Carter, you'll start feeling it. You can walk into a room with more power than most people in the room because of your confidence and your ability to blend into so many different environments and your ability to assess situations and also to take a leap. And 90% of the world's too scared, right, to take a leap. Like, oh my God, they'll stick
Yeah.
in a bad situation for as long as they can. So, where do you see that in your life, Carter? It's like, what areas can you enter and potentially, and I'm not allowed to, we all joke, my old business partner was saying, Andy, because I host all these zero waste events and I want to educate people on how to do it. He's like, no, 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 you're not educating people, you're inspiring them. So maybe Carter, so what environments do you see that you can go into where it is normally a homophobic environment where you can kind of inspire people to go, you know what? I'm just like you guys. Like, you're cool, I'm cool. And I'm not going to push it down your throats. And where do you see that coming?
It's such a huge, I mean, it's such a huge, huge, huge challenge and kind of thing that I like to play with a lot. I think that there's a lot of privilege in being a white person and presenting masculinely, that allows me to enter certain spaces of societal power, that I feel like I have the opportunity to subvert, with either just my existence of being trans or my existence of being queer, that comes with like that inherent privilege of being white, and I don't take that lightly, and I know that I say this a lot, but the only reason why we as white queer people are able to come out is because of the people who are visibly, who have suffered far more than we have fought for us to be in the space that we are now. People of color, queer people of color, Black trans women, and but I will say that in my power of being white, I try to enter spaces, like you said, that might not be as liberal minded, or even, I don't even know if I've entered a lot of like blatantly homophobic spaces, but spaces that are just not exposed to queer people or the trans experience. And so I feel really excited to not only, I think it is a matter of subversion, but also a matter of just educating, having the privilege to be like one of the first people that these usually rich white cis straight men have encountered their first trans person. And I'm just like, hey, like, I am not, I'm not a threat to any of you.
And I'm not
like,
a freak.
I'm not a freak. The thing is, you wouldn't know me from some other little white boy on the subway. Like the and I want to engage in these conversations with them, because it's so much like transness and queerness is so much more ubiquitous than we think it is. It's everywhere. And whether it's like trans people like Elliot Page, Juno is now a trans movie, and it's like so many amazing, like, there's so many different thoughts that I have about this, but basically I feel like if you are in a space to subvert and bring attention quietly and politely and respectfully to your experience, which is different from everybody else's in the room, you should do it. One of the best examples I think I can think of is I was working at a record label, a large, very, very large record label, for I guess one summer I was interning there in 2019, and I found it to be while it was very diverse in terms of its kind of makeup of its workers, of the people working there, in terms of like race and kind of socioeconomic diversity. I found that people upheld very kind of bro-y standards across the board. And I was not out at the time, and so I feel as though a lot of the people that I'm connected with now, who were people that I met at the time, I was kind of fitting in really well at the time. I was like presenting as this like white kind of, I guess I was pretty like visibly queer, but I guess I kind of presented as just like bisexual, maybe, I don't know. But a lot of people that I was connected with were not identifying with the queer community or really participating in it that much. And so a lot of people that I continue to be connected with, though I am now like out and much more vocal about like the trans community and the queer community, I feel as though that's the type of kind of like, I'm the same person that you met, I'm the same person. I'm just a little bit more confident now. And people who might not have been as receptive, the people who I met then might not be necessarily as receptive to me now, though they are. I'm still connected with them now. Do you know what I'm saying?
They're lost.
It's like,
but you know what? It scares them, right? Because they're like, shit, okay. And that's been the whole historical piece where the trans community is just stereotyped in a certain way, where they're just freaks. And it's interesting. I was on the phone with my sister the other day. She said she knows of 5 young people like you that are on the same journey right now. And I just said, that is so inspiring. That is so cool. Because why do you want to go through life hating yourself when you have the ability to make a difference and make a change? And I think for you specifically, I'm really excited. You and I touched on it earlier, but talking about different mediums and different platforms, and how do you inspire other young kids like you on their journeys, or to start the journey, or to be able to attain information to help build their confidences. And is it, I mean, I don't know of a lot of social media platforms, and you may know more about that than I, but do you feel like there's some good tools out there right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually did my college thesis on the interactions that happen online between trans people, specifically the trans masculine community. I find that social media platforms have allowed, at least in my little transmasculine world, um, there is so much validation and kind of uplifting and acceptance that can be found, even in as harsh of a world as the internet is. If you find the right communities, it's definitely there, and that's definitely something that I found with my own journey. Probably more than I'd like to, more than I probably recognize is the validation that I get probably from the people who have similar identities and present themselves uh, proudly online.
It's important, isn't
Um,
it? It's so important.
it's really important, and I think that's also a product of me being part of Gen Z is how digital we are. I was gonna say that actually I don't really use TikTok as a creator as much, but I remember being in a state of utter confusion and uncertainty, and there are specific, I think TikTok realized faster than I did that I was trans because they kept showing me all these like trans guys on
Oh my
my feed.
God.
um but I remember watching them and being like, okay, wow, these guys look so good. Like, how are they the only ones looking that good? Like, I gotta be out there, like, um you know, being so confident and so normal about everything, not having it be a freakish sensationalized thing, because that's part of the thing about normalization and representation is not othering. So yeah, I would say TikTok, Twitter. uh there's a couple Instagram accounts that have kind of garnered a little bit of traction within the trans masculine community.
How
um
about TV shows?
yes. So uh uh, I know this was kind of a controversial season, but not controversial, but people had mixed opinions about the characters on this season. But this show, Are You the One, on MTV, was I started watching that show, or that season, where it was all bisexual queer people, or just pansexual queer people. Uh, One of the main characters on that show was a trans masculine guy, and I had never seen a trans man on TV normalized like that. And I think part of the reason why it was so striking was because he was one of the people who people were paying the most attention to. Out of, I think there were maybe, I think I think there was only one other gender nonconforming person on that show, and I remember being like seeing him. His name's Kai West. I remember seeing Kai on TV, and despite how cheesy the whole show is, watching him and being like, "Damn, that kid's a stud!" Like, that. This is so cool. Like, I. It's just another little inkling of representation on
And
online.
is
On
Kai? What's
TV.
Kai doing? Is he like inspiring? Is he doing
Yeah,
anything
he's
outside
very.
the show? That's
I don't actually know him personally, but I've, just seen some of the ways that he uses his identity to like help inform people on social media and Instagram. Um and it's really, really, again, he's also white, so there's so much privilege in being a white blonde boy in doing all this. And people, I mean, yeah, just societally, like, having